$30 each. Click, call, or visit a Spectrum store today.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. One hurdle down in the Senate as it closes in on passing a GOP funding bill that will stop a government shutdown. 10 Democrats join Republicans to move it forward toward passage. A vote on the final bill is expected later this evening. Now, many Democrats pushed Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to stand firm and deliver 0 Democrat votes to push it forward. But Schumer says the alternative is even worse. He says a shutdown will give the Trump administration free rein to make it even more drastic cuts. And President Donald Trump addressed the Department of Justice Friday, laying out his vision for the department with a focus on crime and immigration. It's a notable appearance, given that no president has appeared at the Justice Department in a decade. In his opening remarks, Trump said the Justice Department is starting a, quote, proud new chapter in the chronicles of American justice. And millions of Americans bracing themselves for a stormy weekend. An outbreak of severe storms ramping up Friday could spawn tornadoes with the greatest risk in Missouri and Illinois, as well as portions of Iowa, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arkansas. And to the south, winds and dry weather pose a critical risk of wildfires in northwest Texas, Oklahoma, and a portion of southeast Kansas. And that is a look at your Spectrum News in 90.
Sure you've heard about it. Severe weather expected tonight for the Mississippi River Valley, also the south for tomorrow. We are looking at damaging winds, hail, and a few tornadoes that may be on the deadly side. As we look at tonight, the severe weather lurks into southern Illinois, eastern portions of Missouri, and much of Illinois. We'll track this system in more detail coming up in a bit.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Our top story tonight, the Senate cleared a critical procedural hurdle to avert a government shutdown at midnight. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and 9 other members of his caucus voted to thwart a filibuster by their own party. The vote was 62 to 38. A final passage vote ensuring federal funds will keep flowing is expected this evening. We're joined now by Spectrum Washington reporter Evan Kozloff. Evan, first, this isn't a done deal, right?
Right, so all the drama was in this first vote. That's because that's when they needed 60 votes to clear the filibuster. And to get that, the Republicans would need at least 8 Democrat senators to join them. In the end, they got 10, making that total 62, because 52 of the 53 Republicans did vote in support of this measure. Only Rand Paul from Kentucky voted no on this measure. Now, all of this followed the stunning move on Thursday of the top Democrat in the Senate, that's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, to come out and support the measure. He described it by saying it was a Hobson choice, basically saying there was no choice at all, saying that he did not like the measure, but Sharon, he said that a shutdown would be, quote, far worse.
All right, and Evan, let's move to the actual bill itself. What's in this that's so offensive to Democrats?
Right, so let's go through the details. First off, it would just keep the lights on. That's the biggest thing. It would keep the government open until the end of September, so 6 months of funding for the government. And it's not what they call a clean CR, meaning that the funding levels stay the same. They do boost spending for defense by $6 billion, and then they cut non-defense spending by $13 billion. Democrats, many of them I should say, are very much against this because they were hoping that they could use this leverage, the fact that they did need 60 votes to clear it in the Senate to try and fight back against many of the cuts being proposed by President Donald Trump and by billionaire Elon Musk, who's been leading his DOGE effort. That's why many Democrats were just so disappointed when they saw the Senate Minority Leader come out and support this measure. Just to name, there are plenty of quotes that we could reach and focus on, but just one of them was former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who went out and wrote, "The false choice that some are buying instead of fighting is unacceptable." Sharon?
And Evan, what is the next steps in this process?
Right, so this was all the drama, this first vote to clear the filibuster. Now they are going to have a second vote to finalize this spending measure, and they are racing against the clock here. That's because the deadline starts at midnight. So they are working quick to try and get that vote scheduled. The Senate Majority Leader John Thune did express optimism that they would be able to move forward on this bill before that deadline. Of course, after the Senate acts, it would head to the White House where they would need the signature of President Donald Trump. He is expected to sign it. He was very supportive of Chuck Schumer coming out in support of the bill, saying it was a, quote, really good and smart move. Sharon?
All right. Evan Kozlov, thanks so much for following this story for us and all of its changes.
Thank you.
More than 50 universities around the country now being investigated by the Department of Education for alleged racial discrimination. It comes as part of President Donald Trump's campaign to end diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, initiatives. And Spectrum's Chris Welch joins us now with more on this.
Yeah, Sharon, this all comes just about a month after the Department of Education warned schools and colleges that they were at risk of losing federal money because of, quote, race-based preferences in admissions, or really in any aspect of student life. Now, the administration claims these DEI initiatives exclude white and Asian American students. So Friday, Education Secretary Linda McMahon sent a letter to dozens of schools. In that letter, she writes, quote, students must be assessed according to merit and accomplishment, not prejudged by the color of their skin. We will not yield on this commitment. Now, the list of schools we're talking about here includes prestigious Ivy Leagues and some of the biggest public institutions in the country. Now, this is just a sampling of them, but on the list is Washington University in St. Louis, The Ohio State, Kentucky, MIT, UW-Madison, and Arizona State. Now, much of the focus of Friday's inquiries center on schools' partnerships with a nonprofit that's called the PhD Project. It helps students from underrepresented groups get degrees in business with the goal of diversifying the business world. Now, a statement from one of those schools on the list, The Ohio State, said the university, quote, does not discriminate on the basis of race, ethnicity, or any other protected class, and our PhD programs are open to all qualified applicants. Now, I asked someone from the nonprofit American Council on Education exactly what the DOE is concerned about here with that group, the PhD Project.
The allegation is essentially that that group's work is discriminatory, that it offers a benefit to students based on their race that's not available to other students. It's not clear to me that institutions would do this in a discriminatory manner. What we know is schools know the law very well, and they tend not to engage in discriminatory behavior.
Have we heard anything from the PhD Project on this?
We did actually get a statement, Sharon. I want to read you an excerpt from it. They say, quote, our vision is to create a broader talent pipeline of current and future business leaders who are committed to excellence and to each other. They say the PhD Project was founded with the goal of providing more role models in the front of business classrooms, which remains our goal today. So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out.
And we'll definitely follow it closely as well. Chris Welch, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Dr. Mehmet Oz, President Donald Trump's pick to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, testified before the Senate Finance Committee Friday. The 64-year-old was a respected heart surgeon before he traded the hospital for a soundstage, leading the Dr. Oz show, which ran for 13 seasons. Democrats are questioning Oz's finances for conflicts of interest and comments he made on his TV show supporting privatized Medicare. For his part, Oz says he wants to streamline the agency and rein in costs, but would not say if he agreed with steep cuts the administration wants. Dr. Oz appears before the Senate for his confirmation hearing, and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer faces backlash from Democrats. We're going to break it all down on the Political Buzz coming up.
said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling. And then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Meteorologist Alan Ogles here with your weather on the ones, and severe weather is likely this evening into tonight for the Mississippi River Valley. We are looking at all modes of severe weather with this system: damaging wind gusts, large hail, and a few tornadoes as well. As this large low pressure center really gets going here into the plain states, and a trailing cold front collides with warm, moist air out of the Gulf of Mexico. So a level 4 out of 5 risk for severe weather into St. Louis, Des Moines, Iowa, much of Illinois, into western Kentucky and Tennessee. Strong winds the main threat, over 70 miles per hour. Also hail a threat as well, and there's that tornado threat into tonight. The deadliest tornadoes really come during the overnight hours because we just can't see them. So it is a dangerous situation for the St. Louis Metro northbound into western Illinois this evening. 9 o'clock approaching St. Louis. It will move through Illinois into Indiana by tomorrow morning as that line weakens just a bit. And then it's the south, Mississippi, Alabama for Saturday, with strong long track tornadoes likely in that part of the country. So we look ahead into tomorrow. There is a level 5 out of 5 risk for severe weather into much of central Alabama, eastern portions of Mississippi. Again, tornadoes expected here, also large hail and damaging straight line winds. And speaking of winds, around this low pressure outside of storms, winds 30, 40, 50 plus miles per hour. And you combine that with very dry ground and low humidity, there is a critical fire danger from Iowa all the way southbound into Texas this evening. We'll continue to track this threat for severe weather coming up with your next Weather on the Ones. I'll have that in less than 10 minutes from now.
If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. President Donald Trump addressed the Department of Justice Friday, laying out his vision for it, focused on law and order. He also brought up his belief DOJ was weaponized against him during the last administration. Authorities say the dog found dead, along with actor Gene Hackman and his wife, likely died of dehydration and starvation. There was no evidence of infectious disease, trauma, or poisoning. And millions brace for an outbreak of severe storms that could spawn tornadoes and blizzards in parts of the Midwest and South. Winds and dry weather in the South pose a risk of wildfires. That's what you need to know. and television host Dr. Mehmet Oz testified Friday before the Senate Finance Committee over his nomination to lead the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Well, the hearing is creating a lot of political buzz. And joining us now to break it all down is Alex Cohen. Alex, what can you tell us about the hearing and what Oz is promising if confirmed?
Well, Republicans seemed very happy to meet with him today. They definitely support this nomination. Dr. Oz has promised to cut waste, abuse, and fraud within Medicaid and Medicare. But, you know, there's a lot of things that he didn't necessarily commit to, which gets to some of the concerns that Democrats raised today. He was asked point blank, would you oppose any cuts to Medicaid? And he truly did not answer that question, which was cause for concern for them. There was also much raised about the fact of what is known as the Dr. Oz effect. He has been known to promote supplements, health aids on social media, on his television show, and there were concerns there that would he bring some of his influence and some of his connections with these companies into this role. Dr. Oz has promised, if confirmed, to divest himself of these business interests.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's decision to accept the House GOP funding bill to avoid a government shutdown is facing backlash from Democrats. Alex, how is a party reacting to the move?
It has been very interesting to see. You know, many people believe that Chuck Schumer has been in a darned if you do, darned if you don't type situation with this budget. But we're seeing really some generational divides here on the left, especially younger people who feel as if it was not the right move for him to perhaps cave and support this CR. What's interesting is we're hearing from AOC, as you see there on your screen, speaking up and being the voice of that generation, also expressing her displeasure. The big question is, would she challenge him for his seat? And I think overall what this shows, you know, I remember, Sharon, you probably do too, there was a point in time not that long ago where we heard about Republicans in disarray after some of these big losses against Barack Obama. They didn't know where to go next. And I think now the cycle has come full circle and we're seeing Dems in disarray. Chris LaCivita, who helmed Donald Trump's campaign, said the one thing that surprised him so far, not any of the things that Donald Trump has done, but rather that the Dems have really failed at this point to figure out who they're standing behind and what they're standing for. And 2026 right around the corner.
All right. Alex Cohen with all your political buzz. Thanks.
Thank you.
Friday marks 1 month since Pope Francis was hospitalized after suffering a bout of bronchitis for weeks, which developed into double pneumonia. The 88-year-old's health crisis resulted in the longest hospitalization of his 12-year papacy. Doctors this week lifted the guarded prognosis, indicating the pontiff is no longer in danger of immediate death from the lung infection. Caution remains due to his frailty, and the hospital has not said when he might be released. Troubling new numbers on the growing measles outbreak. The U.S. has already surpassed the total number of cases for all of 2024 in just the first 3 months of the year. Now, according to the CDC, there have been more than 300 measles cases reported so far, compared to a total 285 cases last year. Now, most of this year's cases are linked to a multi-state outbreak in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, and involve unvaccinated people. Take two. SpaceX crews hoping to take off on their mission to the International Space Station. Stay tuned to our continuing coverage of the launch. Just ahead on Spectrum News.
For the millions of school-aged children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Watch Exploring Your Health, Curing Our Classrooms, available on the Spectrum News app.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Alan Auglis here with your weather on the ones. Let's get right to it. Make sure you download the Spectrum News app because you can get the latest severe weather alerts right there in the palm of your hand. We are expecting a dangerous severe weather event into Sunday for portions of the nation. Winds gusting 70+ miles per hour, large hail, and a few long-tracked tornadoes as well. And we'll track those for you this evening into tonight for Illinois, much of Missouri, southbound into western Tennessee, and also into Mississippi tonight into early tomorrow morning, and very strong winds, a possibility over 80 miles per hour for Iowa, much of Illinois, and central eastern Missouri to include St. Louis. And you can see those storms bearing down on you at 9 o'clock this evening. Also the threat for tornadoes around St. Louis as well into Illinois tonight. This system will weaken by tomorrow morning into Indiana, but it's the south on Saturday, Mississippi into Alabama. You see that threat for tornadoes there, and also very strong wind gusts and hail right into Saturday evening. So the Storm Prediction Center has a level 5 out of 5 risk for severe weather for Birmingham, Alabama, westbound into Hattiesburg, Mississippi, Jackson as well, for tornadoes that may be at least EF3 strength and also on the ground for quite some time as well, as this potent cold front swings through the south on Saturday into the afternoon. Much of Mississippi moving into Alabama in the evening and overnight into Atlanta, Georgia, and then it's the southeast. So right along the coastline, the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic, Saturday evening as well. And that's why we do have a risk for severe weather there for Sunday. From D.C. to Richmond to Raleigh, southbound into Jacksonville, Florida, there's a level 2 out of 5 risk for severe storms for the southeast. We have a lot of wind energy with the storm and also a lot of warm air coming in out of the Gulf of Mexico. 81 for tomorrow in Raleigh, 80 Atlanta, 73 in Memphis. But you see behind this system, there's a clash in the air masses. It's much cooler. Minneapolis, you had some record warmth, 48 degrees on Saturday. And then we're looking at that cold air starting to move southbound. A little bit chilly there in Kansas City on Sunday with highs back into the 50s. We'll keep tracking this severe weather coming up.
A new puzzle piece in the story of human evolution. According to a study published by the journal Nature, a previously unknown human population that lived in Europe more than 1 million years ago has been discovered. Researchers in northern Spain found the fossilized bone fragments in a cave back in 2022. Researchers suspect the specimens belong to Homo erectus, a species well known from fossils found in Africa and Asia. Days after a launch pad problem forced SpaceX to delay its trip to the International Space Station, crews are hoping today will be the day. Spectrum's Greg Pallone has more.
Getting ready for tonight's SpaceX Falcon 9 Crew 10 launch. Weather looking perfect for the 7:03 liftoff, but the reason for the delay from Wednesday's launch attempt, the technical problems, but appears they've gotten those resolved, Jerry.
Yeah, good news. SpaceX crews were able to resolve an issue with the clamp that is used to support the Falcon 9 rocket at Launch Complex 39A behind us. Those teams were able to flush out a suspected air pocket in the hydraulic system, and so that's what caused Wednesday's scrub. So we're looking good for tonight's launch attempt.
Yeah, and thankfully the Falcon 9 and the Crew Dragon are healthy, so that is a good news as well. If all goes as planned this afternoon, the 4 members of Crew 10 will suit up and walk outside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building here at Kennedy Space Center. They'll take a ride to Launch Complex 39A, about a 20-minute ride, then up the tower into Crew Dragon Endurance.
Yes, it's take 2 for the 4 members of Crew 10, NASA astronauts Anne McClain and Nicole Ayers, along with Japan's Takuya Onishi and Russia's Kirill Peskov. The 4 are all experienced pilots ready for this mission to the International Space Station.
It all has to go in order. Crew 10 needs to go up before Crew 9 and those Starliner astronauts can come back home. Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams have been waiting since June to come back to Earth. They've been there for about 9 months now. An original mission that was a test mission that was set for 8 days. The pair launched on Boeing Starliner and made it to the ISS, but NASA didn't have confidence in the safety of the Starliner coming back, so Wilmore and Williams were told to stay put at the orbiting outpost. Their ride with the members of Crew 9 on a SpaceX Crew Dragon can leave once Crew 10 arrives.
We've been in constant communications with Crew 9. Crew 9 has been doing this spectacular mission for the last 6 months. Butch, Sonny, Nick, and Alexei, they're conducting science, maintenance, and they've been keeping the station running, and we're ready to high-five them and bring them home in the coming weeks.
Crew 10 will, if they launch on time tonight, will arrive at the International Space Station tomorrow night around 11:30. There'll be a few days of a handoff, and then Crew 9, including Sonny and Butch, they can splash down in that Crew Dragon capsule off the Florida coast as long as those conditions are favorable for that splashdown.
Happy homecoming indeed. But before that can happen, we have to get through tonight's launch. So again, set for 7:03 this evening. We'll have special coverage throughout the afternoon and evening. For Jerry Hume, I'm Greg Pallone, Spectrum News.
All right, check it out. A flaming hot Cheeto shaped like the famous Jumpman image of legendary basketball player Michael Jordan is up for auction. Golden Auctions calls it the Jumpman Cheeto for its resemblance. Well, the original Jumpman photo was taken in 1985, and a silhouette became the mark of Air Jordan shoes. It has only garnered 3 bids, with the highest being $336. Now, the same auction place recently sold a Cheeto that resembled a Pokemon called Charizard for more than $87,000. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News at 9 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Our journey towards improving mental health doesn't always present a clear path. Every Thursday on Your Mental Health, we listen to voices across our communities, discussing the challenges of everyday life and presenting accessible resources to guide us along the path to our well-being, providing hope and empowering choices that light the way to a healthier you.
Your Mental Health with Dr. Nicole Clark, Thursdays on Spectrum News Plus, available on all your favorite devices.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Streaming